This is episode 39 of Pinnacle FC. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you. Spring has sprung. A busy weekend ahead across European football. But look at us. If you're actually watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe, hit the like button. It's a little bit of a rivalry, one-on-one. Is that a Dallas Cowboys jersey? I'm wearing my Philadelphia Eagles hoodie because it's NFL draft week. I feel like we can maybe do a spin-off Pinnacle NFL Draft episode 1, and we can break down the NFL draft for you.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. We've got so many thoughts. It's a really cool process. It's something I wish that we had over here. Something similar that might, even the playing field even more. Because as we know at the moment, especially looking between Premier League and Championship, the gulf is just monumental. So if there was something that we could do to kind of close that gap, the draft would be a really fun way to do it.
Yeah, it would, but there's no structure. There's no college sports.
There's it's very, very difficult to put
Major League Soccer, which once in a while you can find a gem that's available in the MLS draft. But aside from that, teams kind of just trade their picks just because they don't really rate it anymore because there's so many different ways to build a squad. So the NFL draft on Thursday, we're in Stanley Cup playoff time, NBA playoffs. It's a brilliant time to be a sports fan, but don't forget about the football, soccer, picks and plays. And that's what we're here for this week. A Copa del Rey Final this weekend, Barcelona, Real Madrid. We have FA Cup Semifinal fixtures, as well as league play across, we cover the top four leagues. No disrespect to France or Portugal or anyone else, but that's kind of the primary focus here on this podcast. So let's get stuck right in. All the markets that we use are courtesy of Pinnacle, BetSmart, Bet Pinnacle. By the way, they do have NFL draft odds, Stanley Cup playoff odds. They have you covered on Pinnacle. Shall we start with the FA Cup semifinal fixtures? Because I know that over the course of this competition this year, you haven't really loved betting on these games. But these are two bettable fixtures for me, both of them. Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, Manchester City, Premier League sides. We know what these groups are all about. There's data to use in terms of the head-to-heads with these teams and what they're all about. So let's start there. Let's start with Palace and Villa. We should mention we're recording this podcast on Wednesday before Crystal Palace plays Arsenal in the Wednesday fixture in the Premier League. What are you looking at or from this fixture, and is there a market worth betting on here?
Yeah, this is it's a tough one for me because I've been quite high on Palace for quite some time. I mentioned it before we did the quarterfinal preview that I actually like Palace's odds to win the competition. But at the same time, I've been so sweet on Villa as well. So it's two teams that I've been riding quite a lot. They haven't really let me down much, and it's one of those games where I've unfortunately got to pick a side, and I think at the prices we just have to back Crystal Palace to qualify at plus 148. I think it's a massive price. They steadied the ship last week with a goalless draw against Bournemouth after conceding 5 goals in back-to-back games, but both scorelines were harsh. They lost 5-2 at City, 5-0 at Newcastle. Newcastle only created 1.5 expected goals and hit 5 past them. So I'm not getting too carried away with those defeats. I actually think those defeats may have been a good thing, if that makes sense. It could just keep them in check. They probably were getting maybe a little bit complacent. Went into the game at St Mary's against Southampton, were comfortably outplayed, fortunate to get a 1-1 draw. So they needed a bit of a reality check, and I think they probably got that with those heavy defeats. And back to basics last week, 0-0. Ready for this. But the main reason I like Palace, obviously I mentioned the data before has been sensational for a long period of time, is just Villa. Their schedule, it's been unbelievably draining, and it's been high quality opponent after high quality opponents. They played Brighton, Forest, PSG, Southampton, PSG, Newcastle, Man City. That's the last 4 weeks. They've played every 3 days since their FA Cup quarter-final. They've coped really well so far, but there was signs of tiredness in that game in midweek, conceding very, very late against Manchester City. And I just think that goal could really knock the stuffing right out of them. They were on such a high. They were playing, the schedule's easy when you're winning. But as soon as you take a sucker punch like that, your legs start to feel a little bit heavier. So I think tiredness could creep in, especially late in the game. Palace do play Wednesday, but I expect them to play at 50% capacity. I don't see any reason for them to go full tilt at the Emirates. I would be shocked if they went there and played all the starters for 90 minutes. It might be a first 45 job and then get all the lads off. And then finally, just for whatever reason, ever since Glasner's come to the Premier League, he's really caused Unai Emery problems with his setup. They've played each other 4 times across league, and they played in the Carabao earlier in this season. And Glasner's unbeaten. He's won 3 of those 4 and scored. His Palace team have scored 2 or more in all of them. So I just think the prices are a little bit too. Well, the disparity between them is a little bit too big. I think Palace should be a little bit closer to around maybe a plus 120 to qualify, as opposed to near plus 150. And I'll more than happily take a swing on them.
Yeah, I understand everything that you're saying there, but there's something to do with this Aston Villa side. Even losing to City on Tuesday, they got the better of City when it came to the XG in that game as well. And I look at the depth of players, and you being on this about Aston Villa. Just they have players that you can go in and rotate. John McGinn didn't start the game, by the way, midweek. He's going to be a big player on the weekend. Does Watkins come back into the team? Do you shift around Rashford? Very interesting. He couldn't play number 9 for Manchester United, but he's leading the line for Aston Villa. Yeah, I think there's changes to be made. I understand what you're saying about Palace and Glasner, but this Villa side, over the last 10 games in all competition, 8 wins, and they've only lost twice. And those games came at PSG and then losing at the death, in a game that they really didn't deserve that against Manchester City. So I think there's some value in backing Villa, but the market has shifted almost to a point that you start questioning it. When I was looking at it, it was in the plus 135 range. Now it's shifted out to plus 120 if you want to back Aston Villa to win in 90 minutes. Something else to keep in mind, it's a cup tie. Unai Emery, brilliant in these ties. This is one of the reasons why I kind of opposed you in Villa kind of finishing in the top 5 for the Premier League. Stiff competition, but Palace is all that stands in your way to go into an FA Cup final, which would be a huge accomplishment for this club after a very successful Champions League campaign. I think it's in a pretty good spot for Aston Villa. I wonder if Unai Emery will start on the front foot like this team has regularly done over the last 2 or 3 months. They've gone over 2.5 goals in 10 of 10. And in their games against Aston Villa, both teams' scorers played in 8 of 10. And they've gone over the 2.5 total in 5 of 5. You can get over 2.5 goals at plus 102. I wouldn't discourage anyone from backing that as well. These games have been much more wide open than they typically have been. And I think that will continue as well. So those are the kind of the 2 angles that I'm taking. Not to outright oppose you on that, but those are just my feels. No official play, but I think there's some value in backing Aston Villa on the outrights here. What about Forest and City in the other fixture? I mean, Forest have just had an incredible campaign. Manchester City seemed to be, without Erling Haaland and without some key defenders as well, they've kind of steadied the ship here over the last couple weeks as well. Still, City are a pretty significant favorite heading into this time. A little bit surprised by that, where you can get Forest on the handicap at 3/4 of a goal. That's very tempting. The total's set at 2.5 as well, and that's a tempting proposition to take a look at that total as well. Any play for you in this fixture?
Yeah, I think Man City are a bet here. It may be a little bit short of minus 133, but I expected to see them much shorter, I've got to say. We've mentioned it quite a lot on the show over the season. Nottingham Forest are fortunate to be where they are, put simply. They are a counter-attacking team, so they do soak up a lot of shots, a lot of XG, and then they have to be clinical at the other end. And I just don't think they're going to get the opportunity here because it's a tactic that works very well at the City Ground, at places like Goodison Park and those kind of grounds. But when you go into Wembley, the pitch is massive. It's absolutely massive, and it's so much harder to contain and counter because you're chasing the ball relentlessly for 90 minutes and you're covering so much ground. It's just an energy-sapping pitch. And I think the style of football that Nuno wants to play, that Forest will play here against City, it's just not conducive to an FA Cup semi-final at Wembley. If it was anywhere else, if it was in another stadium where the pitch wasn't as big and you didn't have as much to cover, I might be interested. But I think this could be a long afternoon for Forest because we know exactly how the game's going to go. City are going to dominate possession. They're going to go back. They're going to go side. Forest are going to be on the pressing front. They're going to keep in that tight shape. They've got to stay focused for a full 90 minutes. And yeah, everything we've seen from Manchester City recently has suggested that they have turned a bit of a corner and that they are looking more like themselves, especially when Nico Gonzalez is in the team. So their XG conceded drops from around 1.2 to 0.9 when he's playing. He didn't start. I think he featured it all in midweek, but he is fit and ready to go. So I expect him to come in here and he make a massive impact for them. So yeah, I just struggle to see Forest's game plan lasting 90 minutes. I don't think they'll be able to keep City out for 90 minutes. I think that's their best chance really of getting to the final is to go 0-0 and then penalties. Something that they've done for the last 2-3 rounds is to take it all the way. But yeah, I thought City would be shorter than -133 to win this game. That price basically says to me that if City were at home, you'd be getting -170. I think you get a lot shorter than that. And let's not forget, when City played Forest at the Etihad, it was a while ago, granted, but it was without Rodri. They absolutely scored them 3-0 on a big pitch, and it wasn't really even close. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a repeat here. And ultimately, this is City's season, isn't it? We think they're going to finish in the top 5 after that result. Got to win a trophy, really, and I think they'll be bang up for this.
Yeah,
it's a tough one for Forest because they would have preferred to play either of the other two teams. Like, this is the worst possible draw for them in the semi.
although they beat City last time they played. It was at the City ground, by the way, but it was 1-0 back on March 8th. I just look at the under being the play here. I understand what you're saying about the bigger pitch, the bigger field, but the one thing that this City team doesn't have is a whole lot of pace to expose it. Like when De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva and players like that, they try to methodically break you down rather than run around or run through you. I think Nuno's just going to put up that red wall. He's just going to not take any chances at all. I think there was a reason why Anthony Elanga came off in their last game after 45 minutes on Monday. This one screams the under to me. Under 2.5 at -101. Let's put it this way. If City score early, there'll be no rush or hurry. They'll beg Forest to try to break them down. I just don't think without Haaland and some of these City players on real form right now that they're going to be a team that's going to score 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this game potentially has 1-0 written all over it. Either way. And you're right. The way forward for Forest in this game is to keep it 0-0. They've won penalty shootouts, I believe, 2 or 3 times between the two knockout round competitions this season as well. That's probably the best way forward. We've seen them do it before against superior competition. So the under for me at -101 is my play there. Let's spin things forward to the Premier League weekend. There are 8 other fixtures across the Premier League this weekend. Anything catching your eye, Jake?
Yeah, just a few. First off, the early game on Saturday, Chelsea-Everton. I like the under in this one at -109. Everton have got under in 7 straight games. They continue to show defensive solidity, but they had a brief spell where they looked good going forward. That's kind of cooled off a little bit. And the schedule has been a little bit tougher lately, which is probably why we've seen tighter contests. And Chelsea are just the same as they have been when I've been talking about them. They're continuing to look for control over creativity and domination. The last 6 games, they've scored 6 goals and conceded 4 in the league. They've averaged just 1.4 XG and 0.9 expected goals against. They've got I don't know if you could call it a big Conference League game next Thursday. But they have a Conference League game next Thursday, and we know that Maresca has been prioritising that competition. So there's every chance that he could, rest and rotate, or if Chelsea go 1 or 2 up early, he could call off the dogs and sub off his key players and look to preserve energy for that one. So yeah, I'm happy to take the under, especially with Everton involved.
Yeah, just to add, Everton's gone under in their last 7 games. I like Everton on the handicap here by plus a goal for very similar reasons. Everton lost to Man City with a stoppage because City scored a stoppage time goal last time out. So it went 2-0, but they went 15 Premier League games before that by not losing by more than a goal. So they being entirely competitive. Chelsea, the only team that they beat by more than a goal in their last 11 in the Premier League was against Southampton. So does that really count? If a tree falls in the woods, and you know what I mean? And head-to-head, they played under to 7 of 9. So Everton on the handicap plus a full goal. It was at minus 15. It's been pushed out to minus 119. I wouldn't go any further than that, but I'm fine making that play. Anything else in the Prem?
Yeah, I'm going to take the over in Wolves versus Leicester at plus 102. I know Wolves have become a little bit of an under team recently, but I think this is one of those games that you get at the end of the season where there's nothing to play for either team, and it's just going to be a bit of fun. How many can you score? How many can we score? So did a bit of digging across the last 10 seasons. The goal average from March compared to April and May increases by around 13%. So basically, that is tallies with what we kind of would expect. You know, there's fewer things to play for, which means that generally everyone reverts to attacking football because it's just more fun at the end of the season, right? Nobody wants to be well drilled when you've got nothing to play for. It's like, no, you need to get this 0-0. No, you don't. You go 3-3, mate. You try and do what you want. So yeah, Wolves are safe. They've got no reason to play within themselves in order to get a result, which is what they've been doing. And the same for Leicester, really. They're already relegated. They should have a go. Our last away game, they had a good go at Brighton, scored twice in a 2-2 draw. I suspect we see something similar. And this is the time of the season where the goal lines are well worth attacking because, as I said, nobody thinks about defending when you've got nothing to play for. So over 2.75 goals at plus 102. Wolves, obviously, last home game was a 4-2 against Spurs, which is exactly the kind of game that I'm looking at. As a prime example, with Spurs not having anything to play for, Wolves not having anything to play for, it was just a bit of a shootout. So more of the same.
All right. Elsewhere, let's look ahead and bet against. Let's oppose the two clubs that are playing in the Europa League next week. Manchester United's at Bournemouth. You can get Bournemouth on the handicap at minus 0.75. It's been pushed out. Lots of line movement on Pinnacle to minus 115 from minus 109. United's takes on Bilbao this week. United's only scored one goal in their last four in the Premier League. Bournemouth haven't lost in their last three. They had a little bit of a wobble, but they were playing decent enough football. According to the data, they just weren't getting it over the line. Their expected point total is third best on the season, according to Understat, in the Premier League. Versus United, expected point total of the season is down in 12th. And Bournemouth smashed United 3-0 at Old Trafford earlier this season. To me, there's value. Like, he started to play, Ruben Amorim started to play some of the kids last week, and that may continue. Everything, all their eggs are in the Europa League basket, so I'll oppose United. I'll also oppose Spurs making the trip to Anfield. Liverpool is playing for fun right now, but in a good way, and Spurs play in the Europa League on Thursday as well. I like Liverpool to win to 0. That's the best value for me in this one at plus 158. Hear me out. Spurs play Bodo Glimt on Thursday. They failed to score in three of their last 5 games in all competitions. Against Chelsea, against Fulham, and against AZ Alkmaar. Liverpool have only conceded 12 at home and 16 on the season. They're 13-2-1 with a 15.58 expected goals against total. Spurs haven't looked free-flowing just in terms of their attack. It's kind of fizzled out. It's been really disappointing here down the stretch. Whether it be European football or Premier League football, I think you can get some value here in a nothing burger for Spurs. What are they playing for here? Save all their big dogs for Thursday. Give a few minutes, where they're not going to Anfield to risk anything on the weekend. That's a way to probably get the best value against an excellent home defensive side with Liverpool. So those will be my 2 plays in those 2 games.
Yeah, I definitely looked at the win to 0. I also looked at the under in that game because Liverpool very rarely have exploded with life at home. They've only gone over 3.5 goals.
7-5 in that game. That
It's a high
surprised me
line
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was very flirting with the under. It's at minus 116 for under 3.75 goals, which means we only lose half our stake if there are 4 or more goals. That's definitely something I'd be looking at. It's only landed, or Liverpool matches this season have only gone over 3.5 goals in 5 of 16, and 3 of those came against the bottom 3, which is no surprise. But then I remembered that Spurs are 5th bottom, so there's every chance that this could get a little bit out of hand. And it is party time because Liverpool, if they win at the weekend, they win the title. It's actually curtains. So I wouldn't put anybody off backing a pro Liverpool bet. The handicap was something I looked at as well, -2. I'm trying to think back. There's not many games this season that Liverpool have won in what you would say is title-winning, crushing style, where, that one of those hallmark wins. It's like, right, yeah, that we'll remember that in years to come. 5-6-0 against somebody. This could be one of those, because Tottenham are, as you said, they're playing for absolutely diddly squat. And their away record recently is horrendous. And Liverpool pumped them in the Carabao 4-0 as well. So -2 handicap at +108. Liverpool to win the title in style.
Okay, shall we move things forward to the Copa del Rey final? It's an El Clasico this weekend. Barcelona and Real Madrid. Should be great. A little bit of a damper on the party for Barcelona as Robert Lewandowski is out with a hamstring injury. Although they did beat Mallorca on Tuesday, Jake, they had 40 shots in that game without Lewandowski, with massive squad rotation. 13 shots on target and just a 1-0. But in that game, Dani Olmo scored, and they have 5 players who've scored 10 goals or more on the season as well. They take on a Real Madrid side who play away at Getafe on Wednesday. We're recording this podcast before that. What do you make of this? Barcelona's still alive, playing in the Champions League next week. Real Madrid looking more of a long shot to be able to win La Liga. Looks like that's Barcelona's to lose as well. So this might be their best opportunity to win something this season for Kylian Mbappe and company.
It does look that way, yeah. And all the rumours and reports coming out of Madrid are that this could be Ancelotti's final game in charge, which, it probably will be if they lose in midweek, because that would pretty much be title over, 7 points behind with just 5 games to go. But that it would be a bit bizarre to sack him after winning the Copa del Rey and then going 4 points behind Barcelona with 5 games to go. And I think they've got a Clasico in the league to play as well. Yeah, so it's not completely out of the realms of possibility that they could do a domestic double. But the way I'm looking at this is it's just goals, man. I mean, the goal line is just set way too low. Like, we're looking at 3. The line's set at a flat 3, -119. So money back if there are exactly 3 goals. Pays out if we get 4 or more. And recent head-to-heads have just been mental for goals. So across the last 15 contests in El Clasico, that's not including friendlies, just League, Super Cup, Copa del Rey, there's been an average of 3.87 goals per game, with the over landing in 10 of the 15. And this bet's lost once in the last 15 games. So you've had 4 pushes, 10 wins, and 1 loss. The most recent, obviously, was a 5-2 in the Super Cup final. They also played out 4-0 in the game at the Bernabeu in the Clasico this season. And yeah, it just comes down to the fact that both teams are very, very good going forward, but exceptionally vulnerable defensively. I mean, it's just not rocket science. And the added quirk of a wrinkle of this potentially being Ancelotti's final game, I think that's going to spur Madrid players on to try and do even more, to try and get over the line here with some sort of silverware for who is, the manager has been historically great at the football club. It's just going to be a bit of a ding-dong. It's going to be a great watch. I would definitely recommend finding somewhere in front of your television to watch it, because this is going to be a pretty high-scoring game. Yeah,
I'm very tempted to make Barcelona in the over 2.5 at +192, or both teams to score and Barcelona win at +298. Both those numbers are begging me to bet it. The Champions League game next week is just muddling my viewpoint on this one. I agree with the goals. If you want to get a little bit more greedy, how about back Real Madrid to score over 1.5 goals in this game at +122? That looks to be a great bet to make, because I agree with you. There's goals to be had in this game. The Lewandowski injury, I think, big picture, more so for the Champions League, might affect them more. But whether they play Ferran Torres through the middle or Dani Olmo, I mean, there's more than enough in this side with Rafinha and Lamine Yamal. But I just what's on the line here for Real Madrid thinks that they're going to go down swinging at the very least. So Real Madrid to score 1.5 goals at +122 is my play. I think it's a great bet to make, and I agree with you. Goals in the Copa del Rey final this week.
Just before we move on, you mentioned the midweek, and I think it's fair to say that the scheduling's actually been pretty kind for Barca over the next couple of weeks, as kind as it could be, because they are at home for the first leg, which I think could be pretty important. You should have to travel after this game. It does obviously mean if they win it, they can't really party too hard. But then the sandwich, or the meat in the Inter sandwich, is the trip to Valladolid, who are one of the worst teams we've ever seen in La Liga. So, that's a good opportunity to rotate. And then obviously you've got the Clasico after the Inter game. So it's a big fortnight, but the scheduling lines up as well as it could for Barca.
Yeah, and really it's only Lewandowski that he's the big miss, and we'll see with everyone else. Just by the way, Real Madrid have gone over in 6 of their last 8. Like big XG totals for both teams. Like all the data suggests, like their expected goals against on the La Liga season is about a goal against a game, but their goal totals for like 2.5, 3 for both these sides. It's just ridiculous. All right. Elsewhere, we'll leave La Liga alone because all the other games are going to be played on like Thursday, and just for the nature of this podcast, we're going to leave that alone. So we'll swing things forward to Serie A with the Popes passing. The schedule a little bit different this weekend. 1 match on Friday. All the rest of the games have been shifted to Sunday. I like the Friday game to bet on. One of my favorite bets of the week is Atalanta against the very poor Lecce side. Atalanta on the handicap, minus a goal and 3/4 at minus 102, or Atalanta win to 0 at plus 101 are both bettable for me. Lecce haven't won a game in their last 10. They haven't kept a clean sheet in 8. 11 goals, that's it, away in 16 games is a joint fewest, and 13.43 expected goals away from home is the second worst. Atalanta, no goals conceded in their last 3 head-to-head against Lecce. They've just dominated them. Atalanta, they're in 3rd place. They just want to kind of secure that top 4 position, and they can cruise all the way home. And for how good of an attacking side Atalanta is, just 14.42 expected goals against at home is the fewest in the Serie A as well. So one-way traffic for me, and it's going to be a pro Atalanta play on Friday. That'll get us kick-started. What else are you looking for this Serie A weekend?
Now, how funny is it? Lecce are winless in 10 and they're still not in the bottom 3.
Yeah,
shows you how bad the rest of it is.
3 and 7 over that span. It's been 5 goals scored. That's it over the last 10 games.
Yeah, crazy. The only bet or the only game that stands out to me really is Inter versus Roma. Yeah. And I kind of want to back Roma on the handicap, but at the same time, I'm very hesitant because we know how good Inter are. They are definitely the best team in this league, and the only thing that will stop them from winning the title is their Champions League participation, really. And yeah, done a little bit of digging. Roma, obviously, we've spoken about them a lot. Very, very good. 13, 5 and 3 since Ranieri took charge. The 5th best team, basically, on expected goals. And expected points in that time. They're unbeaten in 8 away games in the league. Won 5, drawn 3. All 5 wins come against bottom half teams. 3 draws have come against Lazio, Bologna, and Milan. So that has me leaning towards Roma. And then Inter, we mentioned they've got that midweek game at Barcelona that's coming up, and that's going to be massive, really. I think they kind of have to get something in that game. They have to be within touching distance.
Let me jump in here. Coppa Italia this week ahead of that Roma fixture against AC Milan as well. Like, right. This is like...
So the schedule's not nice.
In terms of a very difficult run. They're probably going to play things safe with Marcus Thuram as well, I'm assuming, ahead of the Champions League fixture as well. I think this is a really good spot for Roma, a side that hasn't lost in Serie A since December 3rd, Jake. Like, if you're going to be able to get them 3/4 of a goal in the handicap, for me, Roma is the must-play in this game.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning. And I think the clincher is that Inter found it very difficult to beat the best teams at home. They've played 4 home games against top 7 sides, and they've won just once. So you're getting Roma on side, all they have to do is avoid defeat, really. And you've got the comfort blanket of knowing that if they lose by a goal, you only lose half your money. So that's something that definitely appeals. And yeah, it's a massive game for Inter, massive game for Roma as well, because of they're 6th as it stands. They're only 3 points behind 4th place Bologna, so they're well in the mix for the Champions League. They need to be getting continuing this good run of form. So yeah, I'm definitely on pro Roma as well.
Really quickly, we're running a bit heavy. The only other play in Serie A, Fiorentina on the handicap, minus 3/4 of a goal at minus 102 against Empoli. Empoli plays Coppa Italia this week against Bologna on Thursday. Like, it's the biggest game of their season. What are they going to have left on the weekend? I'm not quite sure. Fiorentina haven't lost a game in 7. They need wins, especially games like this, if they want to push for a European spot as well. So this, based upon spot in the schedule, is a must-play for me, Fiorentina, on the handicap against Empoli. Very quickly, we only have a couple minutes here. Bundesliga this weekend. A couple games stand out for me. What about you?
Nothing, so it's
Nothing.
all yours.
Mainz, plus 2 goals at Bayern Munich. That is a huge number. Minus 116. Yeah, Bayern Munich is, cruising to a Bundesliga title. And Mainz haven't won a game in 5, but they've had 2 players sent off over that span. They beat Bayern Munich 2-1 this season. Just the 2-goal total for me is too much. Freiburg away on the draw no bet, the 0 handicap at Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg haven't won in their last 6 and are really a bad team at home, 3-6-6 overall. Freiburg's back-to-back wins. They're pushing for a European spot as well. They've only scored 14 away and conceded 26, but their XG total is 23.69 to 22.84. It's 5th in that category in expected points away from home. Or the 3rd, I should say, in expected points away from home. They've been underachieving in that realm. And then Union Berlin at Bochum. Bochum stinks. 4 losses in a row, no clean sheet, 9. Union Berlin 3-0 in their last 6, so they haven't lost, and they're second best in the form table over that span. And they played Bayern Munich, Leverkusen, and Freiburg amongst those teams. So you're getting them on the handicap plus a quarter of a goal at minus 106. So if it ends in a draw, you win half your bet. It just seems a no-brainer for me. So those are my 3 plays in the Bundesliga. All right, your podium plays, your top 3 bets of the week, Jake. You're still going to get above that red line by the end of the season. I know it's going to happen. Let's go. Let's chip away here.
Over 3 goals in Barca Madrid, minus 119 is my favourite bet. Over 2.75 in the Wolves versus Leicester game, and we'll take the under 3.75 in Liverpool Spurs.
Okay. Let's go from the top of the board. Let's go under 2.5 in Forest and City. I will make that play. Real Madrid over a goal and a half at plus 122. And let's back Atalanta to win to 0 at plus 101 against Lecce. Let us know your picks and plays in the chat. Please subscribe, smash the like button, and we'll be back to do it all again next week. A special Monday episode where we'll be breaking down the Champions League fixtures. We're really looking forward to that. And we'll include the Europa League and the Conference League as well as we whittle down to the semifinal of those European competitions. Good stuff, Jake. Enjoy the NFL draft. I will, as I'm covering Lionel Messi and the Vancouver Whitecaps on Thursday night. How about that for a scheduling conflict? Come on, CONCACAF. Get it together. It's NFL draft night. What's going on? On behalf of Jake and
Enjoy.
Pinnacle, I am Gareth Wheeler. We'll see you next week.